All right, welcome back to the Jeff Crank Show. Colorado 740 KVOR. What a compelling story that Kim Weeks told us about her rape, and then, of course, her refusing to be a victim but to be a survivor and to stand up and testify in the Senate on these gun bills. Joining me, Sheriff Terry Maketa is going to join us. I want just to frame this, and this is what Sheriff Maketa wants to talk about, is sort of the way citizens were treated at this, and then some other issues at these gun hearings. And of course, Sheriff Maketa, always a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. This is the exchange that was discussed between Evie Hudak and a rape survivor, Amanda Collins, who was another rape survivor who testified. It's just a minute or so long. Let me play this, and I'm going to bring Sheriff Maketa up to discuss.
Soon, what I described to you earlier will fade into your memory, and you probably won't think about it again. But I can't pray it away. I live every day with the implications being a survivor of rape and what they have on my life, which I cannot go into because of time constraints. And as I live with the memory, excuse me, weighted with the question of my life, what would have been different if I had been carrying the weapon I was licensed to carry that night? I would like to leave you with a question. How does rendering me defenseless protect you against a violent crime?
Senator Hudak. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for sharing your story. Very, very unsettling story. I just want to say that actually statistics are not on your side, even if you had a gun. You said that you were a martial arts student and yet, person experienced in Taekwondo, and yet because this individual was so large, was able to overcome you even with your skills. And chances are that if you had a gun, then he would have been able to get that from you and possibly use it against you.
And she just goes on and on. That's her comment. That's the way citizens of Colorado who went up to testify, that's the way they were treated. Evie Hudak knew better how to stop a rape of Amanda Collins than Amanda Collins should have known. So she should legislate that down. It's very disturbing. Sheriff Terry Maketa joins us. Sheriff Maketa, you saw some of this. You went up and testified along with several other sheriffs from around the state of Colorado. The citizens of Colorado have been treated very shabbily in this debate by their legislators.
Well, good morning, Jeff, and I absolutely agree. And I want to begin by saying that those two young ladies deserve a lot of credit. I witnessed a great demonstration of courage to stand up to them and share a very traumatic and personal experience. So I applaud their efforts, and I thank them as a citizen.
Yeah, no question.
Jeff, I've been going up to the Capitol, and I've made trips with you testifying either in support or against bills now for the last 12, 13 years. And what I witnessed this year on Monday was far from anything I have ever seen. The rules changed 3 times from the Thursday before right up until the hour before the hearings. They were changing the rules, and I'll tell you, they were all changed to eliminate the opportunity for citizens to be heard. And I think that in itself is an injustice, but it's also an example of the abuse that has taken place by our legislators.
Well, and no question about it. And you and I talked briefly last night about it. I was sort of amazed by what you told me. The sheriffs took some heat for testifying, for coming up and supporting the Second Amendment. And, I've always sometimes police chiefs aren't the most friendly to the Second Amendment, though our current one here in Colorado Springs is. But sheriffs tend to be, and I think part of that is they're elected by the citizens. You've been a strong proponent of the Second Amendment. Many sheriffs around Colorado are. They know it helps them do a good job at law enforcement, to have law-abiding citizens armed. They were basically threatened in a way, you tell me, that if they came up and testified, or because they came up and testified? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's probably 30 sheriffs that made the trip, and there would have been a lot more, of course, but they got to come from all corners of the state, and we still have our responsibilities. But those of us that came were there as a group and speaking on behalf of those that couldn't be there, and I'll tell you, it's a vast majority that oppose all of these bills because factually and statistically, they're not going to accomplish what they claim to. They're emotionally driven and they have no backing. And I think you're right, Jeff. Sheriffs are elected, so they have a much more direct contact and sense of how their citizens feel. They really do, and I've been doing this a long time now. One of the concerning things is I've always been able to testify on a bill, and the rules were changed to only one sheriff could speak per bill. They would allow us to stand in support of the sheriff speaking, and I had an extra privilege extended by our Senate Minority Leader, Bill Cadman, who got me on the stand to be able to testify, and I felt honored. But it was the citizens I felt for that made the trip that they never had their voice heard. Having said that, I had to leave the Capitol and fly out of town for a commitment I had in Columbus, Ohio, and when I returned on Wednesday, I was actually driving back Wednesday morning from DIA, and I received an email from a member of CSOC, and basically the email said that the Senate Dem leadership is very upset with the sheriffs and their opposition to the gun control bills. And there's another bill that has been put off, and that is the Salary Commission, which makes recommendations to the legislature for the pay of sheriffs and other county elected officials. And as you know, Jeff, my pay is actually set by the legislature. Well, Governor Ritter, under his tenure, created a commission that would study these salaries and come forward with fact-backed recommendations. Now, this salary bill has no effect on me, but the Dems have been dangling it out there and refusing to follow their own created commission's recommendations. They've put it off now for 2 years, and basically in that email it said, you sheriffs, the Senate majority leadership, the Dems, are very upset with your testimony and opposition on the gun bills, and they are stating that basically we should reconsider our positions to gain a more favorable light for salary support from the Dems. The email went on to say, I do not believe this would be sacrificing our principles or positions on other gun bills if we choose to support 197. Well, I was absolutely outraged by that. Number one, the salary bill for elected officials is a mandate of the legislature. Creating gun control is not a mandate, and in this case, there is no factual basis for it. And I made it very clear that I felt it was almost bordering extortion, attempted to influence a public official, but more so that we would be sacrificing our morals and principles and what we know is the right thing to do. And I think that's the type antics that we're seeing out of the leadership up there, and it starts right at the top with the president of the Senate and the chairman of those committees, and the same tactics they used that prevented sheriffs from having the opportunity to testify on factual bases toward these bills, as well as blockading the hundreds and hundreds of citizens that made the trek that have never testified and prevented them from testifying.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. And we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Sheriff Maketa, I mean, what you just told me, I don't understand how that honestly isn't a crime. I mean, they are, and I'll make the allegation of it. I think that the Attorney General ought to investigate that. They're out there telling sheriffs, oh, this may affect how we're going to do, how we're going to vote or bring up your salary because you took a position on this. First of all, the chilling effect that has on the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. But I got to tell you, if that's happening, and John Morris, a legislator from right here in El Paso County, is doing that, Where is the Denver Post? Where is the Gazette? Where is the news media investigating this claim? And we need to find out if John Suthers will investigate. I just don't understand why we wouldn't push forward on this. That is absolute corruption to do that. I'm going to take a quick break. Sheriff Maketa, I'll let you have your thoughts when we come back. Welcome back to the show, the final segment of the Jeff Crank Show. Drive safe out there. Joining us right now, Sheriff Terry Maketa. We're talking about these gun bills and just really the way that the Democrats are trying to ram these bills through. By the way, go to jeffcrank.com. I've got the names and phone numbers of the 4 senators you ought to contact. You can do it today. And do it before Monday because they're going to have third reading of these bills in the Senate on Monday. We can still make a difference, and we already have on the campus carry bill, which Angela Hiran decided that she wasn't going to support, and that bill died. So we are a couple of votes short of making a difference on this. Sheriff Maketa, you've always been a great supporter of the Second Amendment. I phrased it, and I think many have phrased it over the last couple of weeks. I phrased it in the last segment. This is a women's rights issue. I mean, women being able to fight back with a firearm. How in the world would anybody who cares about women want to take that right away from them?
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Jeff. It is about a women's right, but it's all citizens' rights, and they've been very clever at picking titles that almost ring of common sense, and it's not until you read the language and you realize the implications and the very probable criminalization of otherwise very law-abiding citizens that would never commit a crime in their life. And the bill that they're holding our salary bill over, and let me just comment on the salary bill.
Yeah, please do.
It does not affect me at all. It has no impact. If they pass the bill, I benefit from it in no way. As you know, I'm term limited. But it's based on a study through a process the Dems put together. And I'll give you an example of comparison. They're recommending a 10% increase because the sheriffs haven't seen a raise since 2006. If you compare a chief's salary across the state, they have gone up somewhere between 14 and 18.9%. So it was a legitimate responsibility of the legislature. And as what they're saying is, you have really upset us, and it's almost a coercion, extortion, blackmail, or influence of a public official through pay to say support 197. Well, 197 is the domestic violence offender, and my greatest concern is so many of our citizens will look at that and go, okay, well, we're talking about those violent people involved in domestic violence, when in reality we're not. And I have looked at the statistics in El Paso County, Colorado Springs, and on a statewide level. And it's a Fourth Amendment or a Fifth Amendment issue. It's about now they had law enforcement seizing weapons. They took that out, and they put it in the hands of the court to go in and even prior to a conviction of a crime, they are forcing citizens, before proven guilty, to surrender their weapons, and they're given 3 options. And it's not just weapons, it's ammunition. And when I look at the state statistics on domestic violence, only about 40% involve any kind of an assault. And if they want to really ban the objects used in the commission of those assaults, they ought to be removing blunt objects, because that is used more than firearms. And cutting instruments like knives are almost used double the opportunity as compared to guns, but guns only represent 1.6%. So they're using it as an excuse, and it truly is taking rights away from citizens, treating them like criminals before they have their day in court. And I think they're tampering not only with the Second Amendment, they're infringing on your Fourth Amendment rights and your Fifth Amendment rights, and they're side-skirting that by using a civil process. And these facts need to get out to the citizens because, like I said, they are using titles that on the surface you hear and you say, yeah, okay, I could see that. Yeah, those people are dangerous. When in reality, we're punishing a far larger majority. We're affecting the rights of a far larger majority than those they claim that this targets. and study after study at the national level, even during the Brady, the last assault weapons ban that was from 94 to 2004, DOJ, NIC, the Urban Institute, and the Journal of Medicine all concluded that ban had no effect.
Yeah, well, and this isn't it's about their political agenda to control firearms and ultimately to control people. That's kind of the ultimate goal here. I want to go back though a little bit to that. I mean, what I'm sitting here thinking, why would this not be extortion, to withhold pay of an elected official when you have power over them to do that? If you did that in a private business and you were the CEO of a company and you said to an employee, you know what, I'll give you a salary increase if you do this, and you put pressure on them to do that, that would be criminal. So why would it not be in this case? And what do we need to do to push this? Can we push this forward? Would it be Attorney General John Suthers or who that gets the opportunity to pursue this?
Well, it would actually be the Attorney General. And I'll tell you what concerns me the most is it's going to be a lot of, well, I didn't say that, he said that, or she said that. And, it will be a challenge, but I think it absolutely needs to be looked into. I think a line needs to be drawn between right from wrong and a legal approach versus an unlawful act on behalf of the leadership. And I have the exact wording in that email. I'm putting a letter in the Gazette. I'm hopeful that they will print it on Tuesday. They told me that they would get it in Tuesday or Wednesday. They are anxious to see it because I want to cover a couple topics in it, and I think it needs to serve as the basis to, number one, let citizens know what's going on, but also really hold those accountable that are expressing in an indirect way, sheriffs, obey or you will pay.
Right. Yeah, there's no question about it. And I hope that you will push this. Are you going to talk to Attorney General Suthers or push the issue with him? I think he should be asked to investigate this.
Well, I've been having conversations beginning with the sheriffs that I work with. First of all, to make sure that they don't cave on this, I've had conversations with our Senate Minority Leader, Bill Cadman, Representative Amy Stevens, to really push this and not let it just lie down and not be held hostage over the future of sheriff's pay over an issue or issues that will have no impact on crime and violent crime. Yeah, I'm going to push it, Jeff.
Yeah, okay, great. And then I know that you have something coming up, I know, with Peggy Littleton coming up. I think it's this week, isn't it?
Yes, it is. March 9th, we're holding a town hall meeting, and really it's to get the truth out there about this gun legislation, because I've had calls from citizens that have said, Sheriff, why wouldn't you support universal background checks? And I tell them this isn't universal. We have universal. We have the gun show loophole covered. This is now about affecting citizens' right to exercise their right of ownership. And it requires, for instance, Jeff, if you are on a business trip and you leave a firearm for your wife so she can protect her and your son, you need to get a background check. And it's absolutely ridiculous, and I'm already hearing from sheriffs around the state that some of these FFL dealers are saying, you know what, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to do those background checks. We have the right to exercise authority over our personal property, whether it be a car or a firearm, and it's our decision who we let use those items, and it's our decision who we give those items to.
Yeah. It's ultimately it's about control of people, right?
It is all about control of people.
All right, and so this town hall meeting Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. at Centennial Hall, which is 200 South Cascade. Commissioner Littleton, Sheriff Terry Maketa. Hey, thanks for all your work on this Second Amendment issue and keeping our community safe.
Thank you, Jeff, and you keep up your good work because it takes us working together to stop this nonsense.
All right, thanks, Sheriff Maketa. We need to pursue that. I'm telling you, I'm going to make sure that this thing gets pursued. Where is the Denver Post? Where is the Gazette on pushing for an investigation into whether John Morris and the Senate Democrats inappropriately pressured these sheriffs? I think it's extortion. We'll be back next week on The Jeff Crank Show.